And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore, where we never set out with your hosts, ND and CD. What is going on? It is with great despair that we inform you guys. There's one game of college football left for us to preview this year. We had what many would say, a disappointing bowl season. I say nay.
Absolutely not.
Any bowl season is a good bowl season, right? Where there's some lopsided games, sure, and we'll get to those. We'll get talking about those. What do we have today on the schedule? Well, we're going to recap some of the bowl season, specifically like our last round of previews and picks. Spoiler alert, we did not do very well during bowl season at all.
Did anybody?
I don't know.
A few of you guys did in our bowl pool. That was awesome.
A few of you guys did. Yep. Aiden Weingartner, congratulations to you. You won our bowl pool. So we'll be in touch for sure how you can get on this show. Thank you for all who participated. And like I said on the agendas for today, recapping those games. Also, we have some awards. We have some Redshirt Sophomore awards that CD and I alone voted on. And we're excited to reveal those. Not that these mean anything to any of these players, coaches, or teams, but where we made awards.
I will say we at least thought about it more than the Heisman Trophy winners. The Heisman Trophy voters thought about their votes, whatever.
1,000%. And same goes to all the other awards out there, college football awards. We put more thought into this than those people put into their little stinky sandwiches. Look, and some of you guys are going to disagree, and you can let us know in the comments about your disagreements. Were there people that we missed? Skipped out on?
Lot of people deserving of trophies in this bowl season.
Yes.
A lot of people deserving of maybe not trophies in this bowl season.
Yes.
But, we can't get to all of them. We'll try to highlight the ones that we feel deserve them and some couple fun categories we came up with ourselves.
Absolutely. With that all being said, you can see if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, you can head over to YouTube if you want. But if you're on Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating. And you can also fill out Q&As on Spotify as well. Let us know what we're doing good, what we're doing bad. And we appreciate you guys so much there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the Twitter handle right there, right underneath us, at the Redshirt Sophomore. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter. I don't have any Dawson's Diner picks yet. It's Thursday. Come on. The game's on Monday. All right. I will not be picking ATS because I have a large hedge amount of Washington plus 4.5 in regards to my Michigan national championship preseason bet at plus 1025. You were listening to the show back in June. You heard that. Very good stuff. And then so it'll likely be a prop. It won't be a total and it won't be a spread. There'll be a couple props. And while I haven't been putting props in Dawson's Diner, they have been good to me. They have been very good to me recently. CD knows this. So make sure you're staying tuned for that. If you guys also want to reach out to us, make sure you hit us at our email at the redshirtsophomore@gmail.com. Actually, our Twitter is not that. I just realized that. It's at the Redshirt Soft. It's not even at the Redshirt Sophomore. It's at the Redshirt Soft.
Well, that's our YouTube channel. So.
I guess that's our YouTube channel. So
subscribe there if you're new.
If you like the content, like the video, as you guys know, that's the rule here. And make sure you guys are subscribed. So you're here for more content. So you want to get into our recap of some of this last round of picks?
Yes, let's do it.
Here we go. And here it is. It is with great disdain that I go a second week in a row, second wave in a row, going under 500. I went 6-7 on straight up winners. Like teams were favored, right? That I selected.
Well, that's
it's been the theme. It's been the dog season. And then when I pick the dog, guess who wins?
The favorite.
The favorite. Hence Oregon State. I missed on that one. Good try. Iowa. Good try.
Kentucky.
Good try. I mean, what do we?
Alabama, I guess.
Alabama technically, but yeah, that I'm not going to count that. You on the other hand went 7-6 straight up. Your losses: Kentucky, Oregon State, Iowa State, Penn State. That was a dog that I got right. I took Oregon or Ole Miss there. Auburn, and you also lost on Texas, but you did have Michigan. So there you go. I was 5-8 ATS this week, which puts me at 19-21 for the bowl season. Not exactly where I wanted to be at, but also not as terrible as you. 17-24.
We battled back a little bit.
ATS.
6-7 is a little bit respectable, not great at all. But hey, all the opt-outs, all the stars missing. It was tough, but we had a lot of fun doing this. And bowl season, obviously, not the winners I predicted or the spread, whatever, but I still had a good time watching it, as I'm sure you guys did as well.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You guys in the comments come after us, right? We don't care. Okay, I'm just gonna let you
We do
know
deserve it.
before you come after us. Okay, in the regular season, I was 71% straight up picking winners, and I was also 58% ATS. If you were to add my spread in winners, I'm still over 70% straight up, and I'm also still over 56% ATS. So, and CD, same boat. He was 73% straight up and 53% ATS. He is well above the standard in both of those, even if you include these bowl games. So, what you can come after me for is Dawson's Diner, though. Now, another even Steven 2-2 week for me. I had Alabama and Iowa State on the show. Missouri and Georgia were later ads.
Thank God.
As
Thank God.
as the list kept cutting larger and larger for Georgia -20, or sorry for Georgia for Florida State opt outs. Sure, I got it late, but the line I got it. It was at 14 at one point. I got it late, and then it eventually moved all the way to 23.5.
Still wasn't nowhere near what it needed to
Yes,
be.
alt line galore type of game. We'll talk about it. And Missouri +4.5. That was +5. You got briefly when people thought Marvin Harrison Jr. was playing for some reason, and I was like, well, I'll take it at 4.5 when I saw it. So got that one there. For 5-6 on the bowl season so far. Uh, look, I have one more game to redeem myself. I'm gonna have two picks. Throw them in a parlay. All right. If they hit, I go green on the year. If they don't, then I lose on the year. How about that? A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. So, but yeah, it was one of those ones. I don't regret taking Bama +2.5, even though Michigan outplayed them. Uh, I still like them at like beforehand. The one that I am pissed about is Iowa State -10.5. Why the hell did I take Iowa State -10.5 with a bad number right there?
Yeah.
The number 10. Why did I not just take the over in that game? Why did I not take it? Was at 58. Oh my, or something like that. It was like a 58 or something like that. How did I not think to take the over in that game? I'm so disappointed in myself as a guy who's
I think it hit through 3 quarters. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Or was about to.
I mean, it was well on its way to being over. As soon as the game started, you're like, well, this is an over game. But yeah, I mean, to say cashing some live bets, of course, that's what bowl season is. So me personally, up on the year, large amounts. But for you guys, I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best over here, but we'll be better. We'll be better. So, CD, any thoughts on these games? What games when you were picking that you felt really good about that you were that just did not pan out at all? I feel like you were really high on Penn State.
Yeah, and I don't know why I let them fool me again. That Drew Lara could come in and play against a good defense and or not
Okay.
not even a good defense, like when he needed to make plays. Like they
Sure.
needed to rely on him. Again, that offensive line without Olu, I get it, whatever. You're missing some other guys. I believe the center was out as well, but you still couldn't get the running game going. It's been what since the beginning of the year, right? You have K. Allen and Nicholas Singleton, and you still can't get it done. Wide receivers continue to get zero separation against a pretty bad secondary. Very frustrating. Very frustrating for Dan Franklin. I know they're overhauling the offense. I know they're going to put everything on the table for Drew Alar. Is that worth it? I do like the new coordinator they're bringing in. I do think this game was very, very frustrating. And they were trying to win this bowl game. I know that. And they had some opt outs for sure. But this coaching staff wanted to win this game and complete the six factor, whatever you want to call it, with all the New Year's Six games that they're trying to win. And yeah, kudos to Lane Kiffin, though. They have continued their offseason momentum. They are tearing it up right now with all the portal gets they're getting, finished a nice recruiting class, and then getting a nice New Year's Six bowl game that was dominating. Very, very awesome to see.
Yeah, the one that I felt really good about, and it was just murdered before my eyes, was Oregon State. Ben Branson and crew got absolutely smacked by Notre Dame.
It was tough to watch. I
It
will
was
say
it was an absolute shellacking. It was a shellacking. And look, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And that's what happens in some of these bowl games. And the one that I was most confident in, actually, of all of these on this list, besides Georgia,
Iowa.
Auburn. What the heck?
Oh yeah, and that was ugly from
That was
the
ugly. And guess what?
start.
And you know what I said? I said Billy Edwards is not a good quarterback. And that was confirmed, by the way, in that game where they slacked Auburn. That was confirmed that he stinks at quarterback. That is why they brought in MJ Morris. That is why, I mean, it he didn't do that good. He did not do very good
He
at
didn't, he
all.
didn't need to.
He did
The
a
game
little
was
bit on their
over.
mark.
They jumped on him 21-0, and you
Yeah.
knew Auburn had zero chance. They responded with a touchdown. Awesome. Happy for Auburn. Peyton Thorne, good for you. They had zero chance to win that game when they went down early. And to be honest, we kind of should have at least brought that idea to the attention. That's on us. That's on us. But I did not think they would show up flat in the
Yeah.
freeze. And shame on us for that.
My favorite game of these games that you're looking at, if you're looking on the screen, on YouTube, if you're not on Spotify, we're basically just looking back at the games we previewed from all the way from the Gator Bowl, which is Kentucky Clemson, all the way to the Sugar Bowl. And my favorite one of these games to actually watch, aside from the college football playoff games, because that was probably the best set of college football playoff games we've had since the playoffs have been around, the Wyoming Toledo game. Craig Bull getting the walk-off win as a retirement gift. That was awesome. Love seeing that. They went down the field there, the backup quarterback, and got it done. And they kicked the field goal to win the ball game. So that was awesome. And Tucker Gleason was okay for Toledo. He wasn't great.
Not efficient at all. 14 for 34 is not going to get it done.
Nope, but
especially when you run the ball well. 7.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, I watching him though, I was like, I think they can work with this next year. But it clearly was not enough to get it done. It almost was. It came down to the last play.
Yeah.
It was almost enough. But what I did hear, though, when I did get from watching this, though, Penny Boone is a very good player in his own right. It feels like they got some guys in Toledo that Penny Boone might not be such a big loss for them.
Yeah. They always seem to turn out guys there. They do a really good job of bringing us some talent there. Jason Candle's done that for a while now.
Yes, absolutely. And real quickly before we get to the college football playoff games, because everyone's talking about it and everyone has an opinion. So people probably, I don't know, maybe some people, not everyone, wants to hear our opinion about whatever the hell was the Orange Bowl. Georgia versus Florida State. You had a surplus of opt-outs for Florida State. And people are like, does this validate, why Florida State was left out in the playoffs? Does this validate Georgia's roster? What, in your eyes, Christopher, what does that game tell us, if any?
Here's what I'll say. I think there's an overreaction because of the score. 63-3 is about as bad as it sounds, and it probably could have been worse.
It was probably going to be worse.
It could have been worse there. And kudos for Georgia for showing up after, a brutal end of the season, not getting their goals at all. They showed up. Carson Beck's coming back. A lot of those seniors played well. Lad McConkey gutted it out. Awesome to see there for Georgia. The thing here with Florida State, I don't think it justifies that they shouldn't have been in the playoffs because we know this is a completely different football team than what they would have been in the playoffs had they been full strength or with no opt-outs, no injuries, surgeries, whatever, yada, 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 right? But I do think, it can shut up some Florida State fans. It's like it. I think for the sake of college football and for the sake of a lot of our sanity is if Florida State had won this football game, it would have been, the next 6 months of being Florida State should have been in national champions, yada yada yada. The same thing happened to UCF, and while I do feel for Florida State, when it happens, it sucks to see those players and that coaching staff work so hard all year and to go out like that because they had a bunch of opt-outs and injuries. Brutal to see. And they drew probably maybe the second best team in the country. You don't know. I think if Georgia plays Bama again or Georgia plays Michigan again, they probably beat both those teams. They're a monster. And I just think, yeah, I don't think you can take much from it, but I do think it's kind of just okay, we can kind of all relax and breathe out and be like, okay, maybe Florida State, yes, it sucks. They had a right to be in, but maybe they weren't one of the 4 actual best teams in the country.
Yeah, for me, you're right on that. It doesn't mean that Florida State should have been out, right? Or Florida or Georgia should have been in. You have this thing where the committee goes, all right, we're going to find the 4 best teams, right? Well, the 4 best teams are generally reflected by Vegas odds, right? That's generally what it is. If you're looking at the 4 best teams, you're looking at power ratings. That's clearly not what this is, right? It's most deserving or best or balanced, whatever it is. It's very unclear about what it is, right? So I don't think anyone was wrong to believe what they believe because of the fact that it is argued by so many people, just means that in general, when it first began, it was not very clear what the criteria actually really was, right? And what games matter, what games don't matter, because it looks like there is some of that goes on. What I will say though, what this game told me was that, like, as much as people want to believe that Mike Norvell is a guy, right? And it's not his fault for losing the football game, right? I'm not saying that. They should have gotten shellacked, right? Whatever the outline was, everyone should have taken it. Whatever it was. He had no control over this game. What he does have control over, though, is his roster for 2024. This was it. That was the preview of what the roster is going to mostly consist of for next year, right? They will bring in a lot of transfer portal, right? And they've relied on that in the past. Is it sustainable? Right? Is it sustainable? I was the first skeptic of Mel Tucker when he brought in that giant transfer portal class and they went 11-2, whatever. Now you've seen 2 years of success from Florida State. It's can you get that third year of success? They have really good recruiting classes coming in, but as you saw some other schools, particularly Texas A&M, can these freshmen do enough to win ball games early on when you play some really tough competition, tough Power 5 football? I don't know.
Well, they did just get DJU out of the portal. I don't think that's a game breaking, game changing. I'm gonna all of a sudden they're my ACC favorites. No, but he gives you a very nice floor on this team to help you go and not have the bottom fall out on you like it could have with this roster that's currently constructed and in some of the Brock Glenn and the future that is there at the quarterback position. I do think it's a major indictment on like how they've recruited the high school ranks, right? The past couple years. I get it. It was a turnaround and they needed to win quickly to satisfy the fans. So you go through the transfer portal, but now it's about building depth and about building right consistency year over year. And that comes in your recruiting ranks. And Florida State, while they have a really talented roster themselves, they do not have a very deep roster, especially on the young, right? Your underclassmen type guys. And which was very evident here as Georgia was playing a lot of backups their own right, and they were really, really good and way better than Georgia's twos were way better than Florida State's twos and threes, and like that was very evident in this game. And 60 points is kind of harsh, but like it was bad. It was really bad, and I do think a little concerning after what was a unbelievably successful year for Florida State, unbelievably successful year, and Mike Norvell and staff there. Hopefully they can capitalize it in the portal. It sucks to see it end like that. It really does, but you know what? Maybe it's for the best. Maybe it does point out some glaring holes that this staff actually has to address in this offseason and how maybe their philosophy going forward and whatnot.
I agree with that. What I will say also, I'll call it right now. If Florida State underwhelms next year, which they may not, I don't know. If they underwhelm next year and win, say, 8, even say 9 games, say they don't win the ACC next year, and they don't get the 10 wins, 9 wins, people are already going to be after Mike Norvell for it's not sustainable. This transfer portal thing, it's not sustainable. Well, just give them like they're recruiting at a really high level right now. Just give but just give those classes a couple years, right? Just give those classes a couple years is all I ask for those Florida State fans. Which I'm assuming they won't be out of Mike Norvell, obviously, because they just went undefeated. But look, you can see it happen really fast. Turn to Ohio State fans that want Ryan Day fired. So it happens very fast. So I plead both of those fan bases to give their coaches more time. If Ohio State things continue to go wrong, and you're not reaching your goals, I get it. But come on, give him more time. Florida State fans, if you don't reach your goals next year, let's not sell out on the guy. All right, let's not sell out.
Well, and the whole point is you mentioned, like, yes, it is not sustainable. Like, that's kind of a fact in college football right now as it's constructed. The transfer portal is really good at addressing certain needs and filling certain spots, but to build your roster through it makes it extremely hard to have depth at positions, which you need in major college football. And that's exactly what we saw here was very, very evident there and how they played down the stretch as well, not just in the quarterback position, but also in your other positions as well. Any other takeaways in these games? I got a couple.
Let me see. Garrett Nussmeier, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
How about that?
Now Wisconsin's defense is not the defense as it has been. Ricardo Hallman is a very good player, right? And obviously Malik Neighbors, BTJ. Well, I think Malik Neighbors for a half, BTJ, whatever. Like they're really good. But yeah, Nussmeier, very promising to see him play. Obviously, he's not going to be Daniels, but he was really good.
Yeah. Other takeaways from this. Let me see. I mean, Oregon was a really good football team, and Liberty just. The problem is it's hard to take away from anything from that game because Liberty, with the schedule that they played, it's like, like how do you even know? So we won't even get into that game very much at all.
Well, yeah,
Just
and Oregon lost to twice to the same team that is in the national championship right
yeah.
now and has extremely unfavorable matchups all over the field. So that's very, very tough for
So I
them.
still don't think we know exactly how good Liberty is at all.
Yeah, and the thing is we've talked about it before on the show where if there is a drastic gap of talent and one team shows up, it can just kind of snowball into a massive game, into a massive, difference in the game, which we saw in this game, which is obviously unfortunate for Liberty as they had a super successful year. Jamie Chadwell should be super happy there. It sucks that Caden Salter, Liberty's quarterback, is now in the portal for Liberty. Some guy's going to get a really good player, very talented runner and throw of the football.
Yeah, I see that you've got Clemson, Kentucky pulled up on in your notes right there. So I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, I do think like now don't think they played great at all, but Clemson got a win. And sometimes like you're gonna look back and like a win is a win in bowl season. It doesn't really matter how it looks. In 6 months, everyone's gonna be like, oh, we ended 9-4 instead of 8-5 for Clemson is a much different thing, much different feel going the offseason. They needed to build some momentum back into that program. And thanks to a 28-point fourth quarter was huge for them. Still don't know if Klubnik's the guy. I still don't believe in him a ton. I don't believe in it. Any of these, upcoming rising juniors right now, other than Wigman, but he's got to stay healthy, right? So that class kind of has a bunch of, not none of these guys you really love jump off the tape for you. But I thought Leary did some things, some nice things. It sucks that he was kind of trying to put it together as towards the end of the season, and now he's off the NFL draft. They do have a very exciting Brock Vandegrift coming in the portal for them. But yeah, Klubnik,
Among other names that
yeah,
are freaking awesome.
yeah, which we'll get to eventually. But
I mean,
Kentucky's done a great job in the portal. They still got some guys like Barry and Brown there that are really exciting for that offense in
bringing
the
in
future there.
Jamori Macklin, receiver from North Texas. They're bringing him on the offense to boost that up. They're on the market for running backs. I mean, they bring in Chip Trayanum as running back. They're in the pool to get Penny Boone from Toledo, who we mentioned earlier. I mean, that's a school that's doing a lot of good things in the transfer portal. So good to see that for them.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I do think, real quick, I don't think we touched on all the games.
We haven't talked about Iowa, Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. We'll let you do it. I mean, you picked Iowa, and
I picked Iowa. Yes, I did. You know what I said? I was like, well, Iowa, a team that has let up only what 4 rushing touchdowns all year, a team that absolutely emasculates freshman quarterbacks. That's what they do. Well, they got shellacked. They got absolutely shellacked. You know why? Well, one, Deacon Hill stinks, which is something that we knew already. Uh, Tennessee was able to run the ball like they have been able to do all year, and they
yeah,
had a healthy offensive line. They were able to take some pressure off Nico, and guess what? They even used Nico in the run game as well.
yeah.
And he was very effective doing that, scoring 3 touchdowns of his own. I mean, how many rushing touchdowns did they have in this game total? They had 4.
Yeah. Well, he had three,
He had
and
3. They only
then
had 3. So I mean, they had 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. That I would have given up 4 all year. I mean, it's one of those games where like you played a team that was much more talented than really any of the teams that you had played all year. Uh, with the
minus
exclusion of
Michigan,
Michigan,
but
right? And
Michigan just kind of bleeded you out. They didn't need to win
they
this
bled you
game.
out. And honestly, that was an unbelievable performance from that Iowa defense. Like,
Yeah,
and like they played unbelievable. So I just thought that might carry over a little bit, and
it,
it didn't.
and also like Iowa's defense, I thought still played pretty well. I mean, they were just put in just such adverse conditions, right, all throughout the first 3 quarters of the game. The dam kind of broke in the second half. I get it, but they also got to Nico. And are you worried about his pocket presence at all? He had 6 sacks, right? I mean, that's obviously something I get it for an incoming freshman, but also like you I mean, it's tough. We saw Jackson Arnold. We saw some other true freshman quarterbacks that were thrown in there that didn't play fantastic or perfect all throughout. A lot of them showed promise though. But you feel pretty good about him going next year.
Yeah, I feel great about him. I think he's really good.
Should he have been starting over Joe Milton?
I don't know.
I
I'm not in
I
practices.
don't think you'd say
Like
that.
I
Yeah,
didn't see enough from him throwing the ball this week because they didn't really need to throw the ball a ton. So I didn't see enough from him to really like definitively or to definitively say, oh yeah, this bum that they were throwing out there, Joe Milton, like he should have been starting over Joe Milton. You know, like
that's the right take. Thank you for that. That's the right take. In my
I'm not in
opinion.
practice. So like I'm sure a lot of people will say, oh, you should have started Nico. I mean, we don't know. we don't know what they were seeing in practice at all. So yeah, good try. Let's get into the semifinal games. Actually, we'll briefly talk Missouri, Ohio State. Oh, Ryan Day should get fired. That was the take after that game from people. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Are
Here's
you kidding me?
here's what you should do. Ohio State fans, if you really believe that, get a GoFundMe together and buy him out. See if the grass is always greener on the other side. That is ridiculous. He was on to his third string quarterback. I get it. It was not pretty when Devin Brown was in there. Fine. You're working on it. You're with Will Howard. You're bringing in Aaron Nolan. You're trying to overhaul that staff. But Marvin Harrison Jr. was arguably one of the most important players in all of college football this past year, and he wasn't playing. And like he's your entire offense. Everything runs through him. Trevon Henderson tried to do his thing. It's a damn good Missouri team, though. It's a damn good Missouri team.
With no opt outs,
No,
zero.
maybe one or two injuries, and like they needed this game, and it was close for a while, really close for a while, and they pulled away right at the end there. But credit Ohio State's defense. I thought they got no help all game. They were Jack Sawyer. We'll talk about him later. They were really getting after him, and then they had some guys that maybe playing a little limited snaps, JTT among others, like that didn't play the full snap count that they normally get, workload that they normally get, but they still battled really hard. It's a testament to how far they've come with this new defense and everything else there.
Yeah, a couple of explosive plays with the help of Brady Cook and Theo Weiss propelled them to score twice in the fourth quarter, and they won the game. Congrats. Yeah. So I do not understand why Ohio State fans panic. And also the Ohio State fans that are like, what makes you think that you're too good for Will Howard? Will Howard is a fantastic quarterback. Will Howard is a very, very good quarterback. 6'5", 230 pounds, and he moves, won the Big 12 last year. Let's not forget he beat the national championship team, which, by the way, beat the Michigan team that you haven't been able to beat in the last 3 years. That's what Will Howard did. That's what Will Howard has done. Now, granted, it's been a very good offense, but I trust Ohio State with their talent and that coaching staff that you're going to be able to put something around him. If you end up landing him, I would guarantee that you can put him in a winning position.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't mind the Will Howard. I don't mind what they're doing there. I mean, I think you needed an upgrade over Kyle McCord. I don't think that upgrade for 2024 is on the current roster for Ohio State, hence the transfer portal additions. Sucks you missed out on Cam Ward. Sounds like you weren't really ever in him. I thought he was a top portal guy. It doesn't matter. He's off the NFL draft anyways. But yeah, as for Michigan, though, I do think you're going to miss Cody Schrader. I mean, what he did, he all of a sudden he looked up and he was at 130 yards against a damn good Ohio State front there. And he was an awesome guy, very underrated, I thought, all year. You're bringing in a couple of very good transfers, obviously. Among them is that running back position is Marcus Carroll, stud for Georgia State. I think he will pick up some of that slack that's being left off from Cody Schrader. But he was awesome. Everything you wanted in Missouri Tiger, that was Cody Schrader. And I think Eli Drink and all the staff loved him as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a couple other good transfers in there as well. But, I don't understand you Ohio State fans. I don't understand you guys. Just be happy for now. All right. Let's just be happy. Michigan is losing an absolute crap ton. You are going to be the most talented team in the Big Ten, with the exception of maybe Oregon next year. Okay. It's you and Oregon and then everyone else next year. So figure it out next year. If you can't, then if you start losing to like Michigan State, if you start dropping games to Wisconsin, we can have that conversation. All right. But until you start winning less than 11 games in a season, let's forget the fire Ryan Day thing.
And by the way, with Ryan Day, everything he's needed to do to adjust to win at a high level at Ohio State, he has done. He went out, he got the DC from Oklahoma State, right? He went out and he overhauled his offensive line in the transfer portal. It didn't really work, but he's trying to get it. He's trying to get it done. He's going to do it again this year as well. It sounds like Lance Hurd, they're in for him. Stud offense tackle from Louisiana State. I'm sorry, LSU. I don't know why I said that.
But Louisiana, it is
Louisiana State. He's a guy that just couldn't get on the field. We know that the bookend tackles they have there are obviously super special in their own rights, but so he can play for sure. But yeah, I'm not worried. I think Ryan Day is a guy that he knows when to pivot and how to pivot, and he's going to do that there for you. And it's Ohio State. You get a couple things right, and you're going to win. You're going to be in the playoffs in the 12-team era. And if you're as talented as they are every year, which they are not slowing down recruiting, by the way, did you see Edric Houston in these bowl game, the All-American bowl games going on right now? He is balling out. So yeah, I'm not too worried for the future of that program.
Yeah. So let's move to Rose Bowl. Alabama, Michigan. I was on Alabama, and my reasoning, I thought that they were going to match up in the front seven there, and I thought that Michigan was not going to be able to throw the ball. Now, Michigan didn't necessarily dominate through the air, but they certainly did enough and at timely moments. That one play that JJ McCarthy made where he had that one-handed catch to extend that drive and then chuck the ball 20 yards downfield on a dime. That was a very underrated play. Helped win that game. They went down the field and converted on that giant fourth down in their own territory that would have lost them the game if they hadn't gotten it. That was massive. Blake Corum ran really hard that game. And here's the thing, they should have probably won by more. They just the special teams. Look, Bama fans and Michigan fans, you can have it both ways. Like there was also a chance that Bama probably could have won by more if say Jalen Monroe didn't fumble that ball near the end there in their own territory. Now, granted, it led to a missed field goal, but they were moving the ball. They could have maybe put up more points there. The other end of that stick is, I mean, Michigan special teams. Jay Harbaugh, special teams coordinator. What are we doing? That was tough to watch. A couple of muffed punts. Um, led to some points. Almost lost from the game there at the end. And yeah, in overtime, it only took one overtime. That last play call. There are people out there. There are people out there. Believe me. All right, I don't understand it, but there are people out there. And look, if you're listening and you're one of these people, let me know why. But I'll give you my reason. Right. There are people out there that say Tommy Rees should be fired. What are we talking about right now? What are we talking about? Do it. Jalen Monroe, we know he's not an elite thrower. We know he's not an elite thrower. Early in the season, he struggled big time with those short intermediate routes. So what does Tommy Rees do? He's like, hey, let me scheme some stuff up that's going to get you chucking the ball down the field. Let me scheme some stuff that's going to use you in the run game effectively. Let me scheme a better run game. Let me get this tempo. Let me fix this tempo. Let me tinker with this. Let me tinker with that. Let me activate Jermaine Burton for the first time in his entire career. Let me get Isaiah Bond going for the first time in his career. I mean, just what he was able to accomplish this year was unbelievable. And more than I think Bama fans would have expected, right? Like given the first couple weeks of the season, he absolutely turned that ship around big time. And for one play call, which by the way, I could argue
It was there.
it was there, and also that is what had been working. That is what it had been working. You have your best runner on the team, arguably. You have more blockers. It was working. You had that trap, that quarterback counter, that trap that was working really well. And like they pulled that guard. Sure, JC Latham got blown up, and Jalen Monroe didn't see that lane to
By the way,
back
like
to left.
your first round right tackle gets absolutely put on his ass. Like
Crazy.
what is Tyler supposed to do? Right? Like what is Tyler supposed to do? Michigan has a really good front. They knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. They just stopped you. And the frustrating part there is you go, the Bama fans, right? They have that sour taste in their mouth from that big time stop on fourth down for Michigan, and then they watch Ryan Grubb in the next game, which we'll talk about, like just in his bag, his absolute bag. And so that's the frustrating part when you could have had Ryan Grubb, and he declined you. He turned it down. He came back to Washington to do this, to play with these receivers and the quarterbacks, and to be with Kalen DeBoer to get a little pay raise for sure at the same time. But like, yeah, I don't. I'm with you here. Tommy Rees is awesome. He has been in his bag since the USF game. I thought even since Ole Miss, and he turned what a very limited offense was in a very, I would call it, confined offense where you have to be perfect, right, to string together drives and whatnot. He turned it into almost a big play offense with some down consistency, which was really impressive to do midseason. Very impressive, by the way. But that's also the thing, like if you're Alabama and you're gonna play this style of football, which with Saban got back to his roots, right? It's the original dynasty, right? What happened there, and the first time is you play really good defense, you run the football, and you don't turn the ball over. The problem is you play those games, the margins are going to be super, super small. And to be honest, what I've seen the past couple of years from these Bama teams is their attention to detail and orientation, right, has been off. And there's been something wrong there, especially in the second half of games where normally they come out and they dominate. And I thought they played really well in that third quarter and they scored 0 points. That is killer for you. I get you score at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Yeah. But still, like that's where you have to go away and put teams away and not let Michigan come back after they miss a field goal. go down and punch in the end zone. Don't turn the ball over with Milroe and whatnot. And they did, and they let him in the game. And you let a team like this up. The reason why I picked Michigan is like I feel like this team is a team of destiny. Don't know why. It just has been all year with everything going on. It's just
It's funny because I know what your pick is for the national championship.
yeah,
But
things change sometimes, But
there can be more than one team of destiny.
yeah, exactly, and I can just get caught up in the moment too as well. But that's the thing. Like Michigan had a chance to win, and they took it, and they did it. And Blake Corum had a fantastic run. Their defense, their strength of their defense, their interior played really, really well, especially in the overtime and whatnot. It was just it was awesome. But by the way, great game, which we talked about. We knew it was going to be a great game. It was an all-time classic in the Rose Bowl. Two Hall of Fame head coaches. You have some pretty darn good quarterback play or quarterbacks playing, not quarterback play itself, but quarterbacks playing, and two fantastic defenses, coaching staffs out the wazoo. Environment was awesome. Kirk Herbstreit was great. Don't know about Chris Fowler, no. But they're always awesome there. But he didn't deserve that. But yeah, it was what a game there. What a semifinal there.
Absolutely. Let's go to the Sugar Bowl then. Texas. We both had Texas. We picked them. And but guess what, Washington? We said this though. Like Washington matches up very well with Texas offensively in the sense where if they chuck the ball around the yard, they can get it done. Texas, they did not get home on their pressures on Michael Penix, and that was costly. Rome Odunze, we've said it. I thought personally he should have won the Blitnikoff Award because of just his timely. Like I saw a stat, and I don't know who it was, and I can't credit. So I can't credit this person. I can't exactly remember the exact stat, but it was like in situations where Washington is throwing the ball when they have a win percentage chance of less than 50%, like a win expectancy percentage of less than 50%, right? When the game is on the line and they need to score, right? Roma Dunze has been thrown to the ball 21 times, 19 for 21 for over like 300 yards. That is absurd.
And how many for first downs on key third downs, key fourth downs?
Yeah, I didn't see the touchdown number because you could probably put that in the Oregon game, right? When through that like earlier in the season. Just whenever you need it, Roma Dunze is gonna get it, and that's exactly what happened. Stinks that Dylan Johnson went down. They almost lost in the game. Then he went down. Apparently he's gonna play. Is he gonna be full strength? I don't know.
We'll see. And by the way, good for Washington for saying he's going to play. Like that's what you have to take a hint, Florida State,
Yeah,
right? Like just lie and say, he's probably going to come back and play. Don't have to suit him up. Hey, that's a tough blow. That is a real tough blow. But getting back to this game though, the Sugar Bowl, it was awesome. It was a great game. At the end, it was a lot more drama than it probably should have been. You mentioned the injury. You mentioned the timeout, the injury timeout, and then the kick catch interference and all the other stuff that happened, and then the swing pass that Quinn Ewers threw that wasted so much time and lost a couple yards, and like it was crazy. AD Mitchell gets locked up at the end of there, which you never see in a college football playoff game.
Well, he got his earlier.
Well, he did, but also like when it mattered, Washington came up clutch, which has been the theme all year. We talked about with Michigan, a team of destiny. Like Washington just has refused to be denied, and that's why. What happens when you have a bunch of 6-year seniors, a bunch of guys that chose instead of going to the NFL draft, Roma Dunze, McMillan, Penix, and they come back for their last year to run it right back, and it's been awesome. It was really awesome in a day where kind of it played out exactly how we thought it would, but just like Washington just was so good, was just so that much better, and Quinn Ewers was a little bit inefficient at times, and Texas when they ran the ball a ton, they ran the ball well. And for a ton of yards, they didn't run the ball enough as they should have, which sometimes Sark can be a little bit accused of. But also when you have Sanders, when you have Ewers, when you have Whittington and Worthy, even if he was banged up, you have AD Mitchell, obviously. It's hard to take the ball out of those guys' hands and put it in a true freshman CJ Beckers, to put in a reserve Jaden Blue and guys like that. But they ran the ball well against Washington, which does not bode well for them against Michigan. But it was tough, though. It was tough for Texas, though. I do think the future of this program for Texas, though, before we get some more information on it, Texas, I do think they're in a really good spot. I do think this was the year to win it all, right? In the next couple of years, it might be, but Quinn Ewers is probably coming back next year, right? You've got a lot of talent coming in. Your transfer portal class has been awesome so far. You mentioned it. They couldn't get home to him. In large part, they couldn't get home to Michael Penix. In a large part, that was due to the lack of edge pressure and finish. Insert Trey Moore, right, from UTSA. How nice would that have been, for them, and they're recruiting super well in the line of scrimmages and whatnot. They are churning right now. Sarkisian has them running at all running at all cylinders right now, and I don't think they're going anywhere. Even moving to the SEC, even moving right to the 12 team playoffs. I think Texas is in a really good position because not only is there like every position I feel really good at future of. Like O line, feel very good. D line, you feel very good. Secondary, you're working on it in the portal and with some of your recruits as well. Quarterback position, obviously Arch Manning there, and I like the guy that's at the Trey Owens at the Army All American Bowl game right
Yeah.
now. He's been awesome for them. So yeah, I do think Texas sucks you lost. You had a chance to win. You got a couple fumbles in that second half, and it kind of got away from you there with Washington in that third quarter. But no, it was a great game. Two really good football teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really, I still think Texas can be really, really good next year. I don't know if they'll be a favorite to win the SEC. They probably shouldn't be, but they still have a lot of talent on that offensive line. They're still going to have a lot of talent in that linebacker room. Can their secondary get better? Can they just get healthy? Right, like that's a big thing. Their weapons, they're still going to have weapons on offense all over the place. Like you said, Quinn Ewers at quarterback. Nothing to keep your head down. Now, if you're Washington, right, when you talk about, oh, this is the window to win it, like
Just today.
like Washington, this is it. This is your window for the foreseeable future, right? This is it. I mean, this is your COVID year, right? Like this is the last year of the COVID year where you have 60-year seniors on your team, 24, 25-year-old guys playing against 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. This is your last chance. Like in the foreseeable future, unless you can start recruiting at a higher level, right? And you get another guy like Michael Penix, which I don't think Will Rogers is Michael Penix. Like this is it. You need to capitalize if you're Washington. And Michigan on the same end. These are two teams that their rosters get drastically worse next year.
And these coaching staffs know it. The fan bases know it. This is the year they've kind of been building up to. And obviously, so much uncertainty with Michigan, so much uncertainty with Washington's roster. We'll get to that, obviously, previewing them. But yeah, I do think that's a great point there with the urgency that both these programs are going to have in this game, and with how Washington stacks up with some of the teams moving to the Big Ten, right? And then also having to go through the 12th playoffs and not having another team where you're going to have a first round NFL quarterback and then three legit NFL wide receivers with good bookend tackles, with a good center, and a pretty frisky defense that plays well and shows up when they need to every time.
I agree. And there's someone I believe in one of our comments on our Trey Moore video that said, look, Trey Moore doesn't have the size. He will not play on for Texas at edge. Well, you got Ethan Burke, 6'6", 260. How did that work out for you in this game? So I think just adding more edge talent there, just productivity. Trey Moore was productive. I think that would have helped you massively in this game. Speed was kind of the big deal. At linebacker, you have a little bit of speed in Texas. I think Ant Hill is pretty fast. I don't know that Jalen Ford is a straight line guy. You know, my NFL scout experts could correct me on that, but looking at his 40 time, I believe it was like 4.8. That's not super straight line to me at all. But I think if you had some faster linebackers, which is why it'll be interesting. We'll talk about the Michigan game. Why I think Michigan's got a little bit more speed on defense, so that'll be very, very, very interesting matchup. So that's it for our previews, right? Or sorry, for our recaps of our previews right there. Before we get into some awards, huh? Here we are. This is the Redshirt Sophomore 2023-2024 Bowl Game Awards. Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. All these players, coaches, teams, and games, we thank you for submitting your applications for these awards. We have received them and we have voted as a team. Now we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 awards to give out. These are some pretty prestigious awards voted on by us. So some two-time winners where like we didn't agree necessarily on number one, but so we got two winners there, and then we got a lot of them we both agreed on. So that's pretty nice. So I guess to give you kind of a preview, we got best game, worst game, best comeback, biggest what if, best performance on offense, best performance on defense from an individual player, biggest surprise game, could be biggest like upset or biggest, margin of victory that you were like, whoa, didn't see that coming? First time starter award for quarterback, best performance in a loss, and best coaching job.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier in the video, if you guys have any disagreements or you think you missed anybody or you have your own, awards or votes you want to give out to certain players or teams, let us know in the comments. Absolutely, we'd love to hear from you guys. If we got something wrong, let us know. If you feel like we missed a guy, let us know. If we got something right, let us know as well. We love hearing that as well, obviously. But yeah, have fun with it in the comments yourselves. I know we had a good time reminiscing on the bowl season and really going through and trying to highlight some of the best players and teams from this bowl season.
All right. Our first award, we'll switch off reading these off. First award for best bowl game to watch for us. We both agreed that our favorite game to watch was the guaranteed rate bowl, Kansas versus UNLV. You had Jason Bean. First of all, you had 78 total points in that game. Jason Bean in his last game ever
came back. And by the way, redemption. How about redemption from a year ago?
From the last bowl game. The reason why he came back is because he had a sour taste in his mouth from the end of that bowl game against Arkansas last year. They finished the season 9-4. Is that right? 9-4. 449 yards thrown, 6 touchdowns. There were a total of 5 interceptions also thrown in that game, and 6 touchdowns of over 35 yards. This is an absolute offensive explosion, and I loved every second of it. So, any other comments on this game from you?
It was awesome, especially to see Jason Bean. At one point, they were kind of running away with it, 21-7, and then UNLV gets a late end of half field goal, which was very clutch, and then ran a nice 2-minute drill to get him in a field goal range, kick a field goal, and then you start the comeback with interception from Jason Bean, touchdown for UNLV, 3-and-out for Kansas, touchdown for UNLV, interception for Kansas in their own territory, and UNLV looked to be knocking on the door to really be exploiting this game, and Kansas defense got a massive stop. A couple key sacks was massive for it, and then obviously it went touchdown, turnaround down, touchdown, turnaround downs. It was awesome. It was everything you wanted in a bowl game, everything you wanted in redemption and coaching and adjustments and big plays. It was really awesome to see. It's a late night game. It's when they're playing in the baseball field, Chase Field out in Arizona. And we love staying up late for that to watch that game for sure.
That was awesome. I will let you take the worst game, and I'll let you take it. You know why? Because you kind of called it.
Yeah, and we debated, obviously, talking about the Orange Bowl, right? And then nobody really loved to watch that game, and nobody was really interested in that game, I guess.
I kind of enjoyed it.
Okay.
Georgia -20.
Oh, that's true. We had some bettors that weren't even sweating it at all at the end there. But our worst game here, we're gonna go to the Boca Raton Bowl. This is USF in Syracuse, all the way back in mid-December. We talked about this game when we previewed it. We were like, no Syracuse quarterbacks. They're probably going to run that option. We have no idea what it's going to look like. USF can really blow them out, or it can be a really close game and be a classic Bowl Mania type game. From the first possession, what, you lied about USF?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could, dude, like, you saw, like, immediately they were running that Wildcat BS with the tight end, and you were like, and then USF went down and scored. I'm like, oh, so this is going to get, like, really out of hand. I think I got USF at, like, -5.5 or something. They opened at the line closed at +3.5, +3 or whatever. And so it was like, oh, that was not very good value. If you were watching the game, that was insane value because the final score was 45-0. It was absolute blowout. Great win for Alec Golish.
Yeah, which we talked about. They went 6-6, made a bowl game, which kind of surprised a couple people. Syracuse again limped to the finish line, hence why they needed a new coach. We do think that there are brighter things coming for that program there.
For sure. Absolutely. Check out our Fran Brown video. Not the plug.
Absolutely. That's in our channel as well. We have a bunch of coaching carousel previews. One now we went really in depth with Fran Brown. But yeah, I mean, Byron Brown played well, or Nycron White. They didn't even really need them much. It was kind of just Syracuse did nothing offensively, and USF just jumped on them 31-0 in the first half, and it was over, which is why it probably made it was our worst bowl game.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was not even fun to watch actually at all. It was a standalone game that night. It was not fun to watch at all. So I was a little thoroughly disappointed with that. Moving on to the next one, the best comeback. I think a lot of people can guess what this one is, but the best comeback is going to go to the famous Toastery Bulls, Western Kentucky. They won 38-35 against Old Dominion. They were down 35-14 in the fourth quarter. At half, or sorry, in the second quarter, they were down 28-0. CD and I both had picked Old Dominion. I look at
Feeling
that
great.
score. I'm watching that game. I'm like, well, it's over. Awesome. Great. Well, Western Kentucky does a little something called turning to their backup quarterback, Hayden Veldkamp, who, by the way, was they had asked him to potentially take reps at tight end. Oh boy. Caden Veldkamp's in the transport. He's like, let me suit up. Let me go sling the pill for you guys. Yeah, 383 yards, 5 touchdowns to come back and win that game. That kid just made made himself a lot of money somewhere. Hopefully, he is a stud. Apparently he's a stud. I never heard of the kid. That's what bowl games give you though. Like, and we talked about this. Like, some people will say this is a bad bowl season. This is the kind of stuff that makes bowl season great. Guys that come out of absolutely nowhere and just light it up.
And that is one benefit of the portal. I mean, obviously, it sucks for these teams and these fans and these coaches that lose out on some star players that are going elsewhere, or the opt outs in the bowl games, like they had a quarterback, right? But you have an opportunity for these guys that have waited their turn, grinded on the practice squad, worked their tails off for their whole life to become in this opportunity to play college football on a national stage in standalone games in prime time on ESPN, yada yada yada. And a guy like Caden Veldkamp really took it and ran with it, and that was awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's some honorable mentions, of course. Honorable mentions being like Clemson coming back just in that last minute. That was a pretty cool comeback, going down scoring, winning the ball game. Yeah, I mean, Michigan kind of came back in that fourth quarter there. There are a bunch of games that you could talk about that were, comeback wins that look real nice. And Boston College, where they were down, right?
Yeah.
Going in that fourth quarter. So
Yep.
bunch of games we could talk about. That was, I thought, the clear winner. CD, if you want to talk about the biggest what if.
Yeah, I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. We're gonna go with the Orange Bowl there with UGA or Georgia and Florida State. Obviously, Florida State was losing a lot more than Georgia did, but obviously to see those teams both at full strength, two teams that really felt they deserved to be in the playoffs, would have been awesome to get a third playoff game. Wouldn't that have been a treat for all of us as fans and coachings and whatnot? And obviously, TV execs would have loved that as well. But yeah, it sucks that with everything that happened there and the college football calendar and the injuries and yada yada yada, it was awful. And you kind of saw that as soon as Florida State went, on offense in the first quarter, you're like, okay, yeah, this is gonna be bad. And obviously, you knew Carson Beck and the talent they have on offense for Georgia, it got out of hand, and obviously it sucks. I feel like this is a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we don't need to talk too much about it. If anyone wants to argue with this, like, oh, uh, the Ole Miss Penn State game, I think that's an honorable mention for sure with Penn State's opt outs. What would they have looked like at full strength, especially in the offensive line, Kalen King, whatever. All right. This one was clearly number one.
I would throw Oregon State Notre Dame in there just because there was so much change on both sides. Now I know it was 40-8, similarly to Georgia and Florida State, a very big blowout there. But I do think both those teams at full strength would have been a really good matchup to see how their styles actually like. It was good on good, for a lot of those teams,
Yeah,
for a lot of those positions.
absolutely. Next one, best performance on offense. Christopher and I disagreed on this one. Uh, I'll tell you my vote. I'll tell you his vote. My winner of this was Michael Penix. Best offensive performance. Here's why. It wasn't just about the stats, because if you want to look at stats, you look at a guy like Jason Bean, you look at Miller Moss, you look at whatever. Michael Penix was ridiculous avoiding pressures in the biggest stage, diming up his receivers, which we know is the best receiving core in the country, but like, come on. He was ridiculous. He was ridiculous. So I give it to him. CD gave it to Caden Prescorn. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, real quick, by the way, quick reminder to subscribe and like the video if you haven't already done so. But look at that guy. That's the Ole Miss player in the background there that is making one-hand catch. And that was not his only one. And they were toe tap catches for third downs, keeping drives alive. It was really awesome. We talked about him early in the year. We wanted to see him get healthy. He's a transfer that came in from the American Conference, I believe, Memphis, right? If I'm wrong. But yeah, he's the guy that the staff was super high on about, and they would have loved to use him and Michael Trigg as a two tight end set. Michael Trigg obviously didn't work out. Hopefully, he figures everything else out with what's going on with him. But pre-scoring 10 receptions, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mentioned the multiple one-handed catch. He was awesome. He was a physical freak, and Trey Harris could have given him too in that game. But deal against a really good front seven and linebacker core. Obviously, I know. I believe Abdul Carter. It was him that got hurt, which is obviously a huge blow for them. Penn State, his ankle was not super healthy, but yeah, I thought he was really special against a pretty damn talented team. I know their corners were out, but safeties and linebackers were matched up on him, and he was just everywhere when they needed
Shredding.
him.
He was a monster. He was a monster. It's deserved. There were a couple other honorable mentions that we had. Freddie Brock. You can see him up there in the video if you're watching Georgia, or sorry, if you're watching via YouTube. Georgia State running back, originally from Maine. Yeah, he was not the starter because Marcus Carroll, and he dominated. Marcus Carroll dominated all year, transferring to Missouri. Freddie Brock got the call, and well, he absolutely blurred. He's over 200 yards that game. He was a monster. And then also another honorable mention, like before, Jason Bean. So congrats to those two for getting honorable mention, offensive for best offensive performance, Redshirt Sophomore awards. CD, I'll let you take away best performance defense.
Yeah, I think we both agreed on this one. It was the stud from Texas State himself, Brian Holloway, 4 tackles. Not super impressive, but the super impressive part was the 2 pick-sixes that came in big time situations for them. Just when you thought Rice was going to be able to make it a game, Brian Holloway comes away and with the second pick-six of the day, and it was awesome. It was really cool to see that happen. It was a game. I believe it was the Tuesday night, right, for them there. It was the Tuesday after Christmas, and yeah, it was awesome. I'm very happy for them, and you saw how excited Texas State was to win that game after the pick-sixes. They're all celebrating. It was awesome. He played his heart out for sure.
Yeah, as a Texas State better, I'm grateful to Brian Holloway. Honorable mentions though, Bo Richter for Air Force, 3 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. Yeesh. Another one, Jack Sawyer, 3 sacks. Yeah, if there are any other ones that you guys thinking about, also thought about putting I thought about putting Kobe Bryant, but like he just had 1 pick. I don't know. There were a lot of really, really good performances in these bowl games. I thought about putting Sam Matthews up there, interception and double-digit tackles, former walk-on for Texas A&M. He was up there. So there were a lot of really good defensive players. But we'll settle on Brian Holloway. Congratulations to you. Biggest surprise upset, game, whatever. We decided to go with an upset. The biggest surprise to me was, and to you, Coastal Carolina taking it to San Jose State, who had been one of the hottest teams in the entire country. They go in there with Ethan Vasco, which we know, which by the way, on this show we were high on Ethan Vasco.
No.
We were high on him, right? Like normal, your casual gambler is gonna look at third string quarterback. Well, let me hammer San Jose State. We were on San Jose State because they were just good, right? We knew Ethan Vasco was really good. He had won ball games for them before. He was a guy that Lance Leipold had wanted at Kansas, and if Lance Leipold wants him, then I want him, right? That's the point. So he was a Virginia High School Player of the Year. He was a stud. But yeah, this just shocked me. This was like a 10-point spread that moved all the way down to 7.5. I was confused by that movement. If it had touched 7, I would have probably added it on Dawson's Diner, San Jose State, but it didn't. And thankfully, I didn't. It didn't because Coastal Carolina won straight up 24-14. Yeah, in that game, Kerry Robinson was absolutely shut down, which we did not think was going to happen. And Ethan Vasco did enough. Not saying Ethan Vasco got an amazing game, but he did enough.
Well, and he got some on the ground as well. We knew Sam Pickney was a stud. He was 8 for 123 and a touchdown. I thought the reason why I was also nervous was no Jared Brown. Jared Brown's a stud for them. That second option there they have really complements Sam Pickney very, very nicely. He'll be an NFL guy as well one day. And yeah, we were expecting how hot San Jose State was down the stretch, how they were upset they didn't get to play in the Mountain West Championship. And Coastal Carolina team that we like them a lot. We like their program. We like their culture, but we were really expecting San Jose State to go into Hawaii and really get it done there and cover a pretty hefty line. And they lost by double digits there. And it was not particularly close, to be honest, either.
All right, moving on. Congratulations to Coastal Carolina, by the way, for being our biggest surprise because we thought you were not going to do well, and you did. Awesome. I know we got some Coastal Carolina fans out there that are following our show. So thank you so much to you guys. Best performance in a loss. I'll let you take that one away.
Best performance in a loss.
Or sorry.
First time starter.
First time starter award. We'll get the best performance in a loss after.
We'll go in a little bit of a surprise, a guy that's been pretty kind of overshadowed, right? Because of who else was in his quarterback room. We're gonna go all the way out to USC. This is Miller Moss, right? He dominated a Louisville team that had a pretty respectable defense all throughout. This was in the DirecTV Holiday Bowl back on December 27th. He had 372 yards, 6 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He was awesome and really solidified that quarterback position for the future there for USC. And now they're out on Will Howard, apparently.
Okay, now
Malachi Nelson's in the portal, and he's the guy there all of a sudden, the last man remaining, and he has been a stud.
Yeah, if you're gonna cause Will Howard to start taking visits at Ohio State, and you all of a sudden cause Malachi Nelson to go into the transfer portal, you're gonna win that award for me. That was a absolutely amazing performance. Honorable mentions will go to Garrett Nussmeier for sure at LSU, Steve Angeli at Notre Dame. I thought he played really well that game, and Caden Veldkamp, who didn't start, but he should have. That's if he was a starter, I probably would have put him on this list for that comeback win, but he didn't actually start, so he couldn't actually receive this award. That guy's a stud. But yeah, Miller Moss, it makes you feel a lot better about USC's program going forward because you're like, this team that won 8 games or 7 games with Caleb Williams at quarterback. You're like, what do they do? What do they do? And now all of a sudden you got NFL draft newbie guys like questioning Caleb Williams' ability because he's a system quarterback apparently. Yeah, let's not do that game.
This is about Miller Moss hype, not about Caleb Williams slander. No, yes. Miller Moss was awesome, and they also had some opt-outs. They had some wide receivers missing, a running back missing, couple linemen. It was really impressive, and the best part about it is you don't have to use your NIL to go get a quarterback now. You can go and beef up the defense, beef up the trenches, and really go and compete year one in the Big Ten.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. Let's move on. Let's go to best performance in a loss. I'll say it right away. We both agreed on this. Rocco Beck. Are you kidding me?
Free my boy Rocco.
Your team has 0 yards rushing. Now, some of that was due to his sack yardage.
He can't do everything now.
He can't do everything. What do you think? Over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, or something like that?
Yep, 446 and 3 tutters.
And 3 tutters. Get the man some freaking help.
But he also ran the ball 12 times. Your running back had 0.3 yards per carry. This is a guy that had over 200 yards against Kansas State literally a month ago.
I'll ask the audience. Over under a half a yard rushing for this team. I'll give you 5 seconds to answer this in the comments. Over under a half a yard rushing. Yeah, the under. That would be the under. They had 0 yards rushing. 0. And what are you supposed to do, Rocco Beck? What are you supposed to? And your defense is just getting shredded by Seth Hennigan, Blake Watson, and co. I'm sorry, dude. You balled out, man. And I love the way that you played this year. I'm excited to see you play next year as well.
You went down early. I was 19-0, whatever, but you fought back. You had a chance. Yeah. You cut it to 9 at halftime, and then you went out and your defense just could not get you any stops when they needed to in that third quarter. And you had no chance to. 446 yards.
Yeah. Honorable mention, though, Corey Rucker, over 100 yards. And his first 2 touchdowns of the season came in the Camellia Bowl against Northern Illinois. He's a wide receiver for Arkansas State. Probably one of their best receivers. I found it shocking that he hadn't scored a touchdown all year. He scored 2 of them.
He's a former SEC guy, right, in South Carolina?
Yeah, something like that.
Very powerful player.
And then George Holani also was very, very good. Had over 180 total yards and 2 touchdowns.
Is that a swan song? Is he done with eligibility?
I believe he is.
He's been there forever, so but also he's had so many injuries. Let me double check that real quick.
Yeah, but I thought he was really good in that game as well. He busted off a gigantic touchdown. I think I took his under for that game too, rushing yards, and that run put it over. So tough way to go. But thank you for your service, George Alani. You've been incredible. That's his 5th year.
I think that's it. I think that is his 4th year. He's played 4 years of actual football. Who knows with COVID? Well, hopefully we'll see him back next year. But Ashton Ganty's there; they'll be okay. But
yeah, I have no idea.
He deserves a shout out for sure.
Very good. And then I'll let you take the. Do we officially confirm what the last one was? Yeah. Okay.
Best coach in John.
Okay. Yeah. We went back and forth about this, but I think we agreed upon one winner. Even though there were a lot of winners, including the coaches in the college football playoff games, but we thought there was one particular coach that kind of stood out from the rest, and I'm sure you guys are going to disagree. So let us know who we missed in the comments if you don't feel the same.
Yeah, we're gonna take our way to the famous, right? Not the famous toastery, but the famous Pop-Tarts Bowl. This was best mascot, best entrance, yada yada yada. It was best trophy. It was awesome. It was also a very good game played, right? This is Kansas State's Chris Kleiman is gonna get our best coaching job performance. I thought what he did without his OC, with a bunch of players in the portal, with a brand new quarterback coming in, true freshman, who I know you're very high on, and there's a reason why he's there and Will Howard's not.
Made it look easy.
He made it look really easy. While he wasn't totally totally efficient at times, but you also see just how effortlessly he runs the football. Avery Johnson there for Kansas State. You shut down a really good football team. Like North Carolina State was a really good team in the ACC. They were 9-3. They played really well, especially down the stretch there. Brennan Armstrong was figuring it out. He ran for over 120 yards, and you still won by over a touchdown. Hats off to you in Kansas State.
Absolutely. And there were a lot of other coaches out there that probably deserve. We'll throw out a couple honorable mentions, and there's going to be more because there were a lot of really good coaching jobs. And you got to understand, this is all going on transfer portal, right? You got early signing day going on. Like, these coaches are doing it all. So I thought Chris Kleiman just deserved a special shout out for all the reasons that Sadie said. But Ryan Silverfield's going to get an honorable mention for me because of the way that he handled Iowa State and the way that he got his team ready to play in that ball game. They absolutely shredded Iowa State, and defensively they came up with stops when they needed to. So shout out to Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. I thought you did a fantastic job. There are other coaches, obviously Lane Kiffin with his performance against Penn State. With the opt-outs, though, you know, some things are skewed a little bit. Of course, Jim Harbaugh figuring his stuff out. His staff absolutely played out of his mind. We'll talk some more about Jim Harbaugh in a little bit. The last one that some of you are probably gonna be like, "What? Why won't you give it to Tyson Helton?" You know, he came back in the famous Toastery Bowl. Here's why I will not give it to Tyson Helton of Western Kentucky. We saw Caden Veltkamp, who was getting reps at tight end, by the way, or whatever he was told to play tight end, or getting reps, whatever the story was. I can't confirm all the details of it. But you're telling me that he was going to start his nephew, right? If you didn't know, Tyson Helton is Clay Helton's brother. Clay Helton, former USC coach at Georgia Southern. His kid Turner, he's like, let me go start my nephew, right? Pull Mike Gundy for a second. Let me start my nephew over this other quarterback that very clearly is more ready to play and is just better. That's what I'm going to do. And then he waited and almost cost his team a loss. Thank God Caden Veltkamp exists and is as good as he is to pull him out of the mud right there. So Tyson Helton, you will not be getting this award because of mishandling the quarterback position before you put in Caden Veltkamp. Is that fair?
That's very fair. Real quick, while we're slandering the coach, why not? I'm gonna throw another category. I didn't really talk to you about it, but I just thought about it. We're gonna talk about most disappointing coaching job because I thought there are a couple of them. There are a couple. These off the rip here, no prep done. I'm gonna throw a few names here. Tell me if you agree or not. We're gonna go to Miami, right? Mario Cristobal. To lose to Rutgers, right? Rutgers was not a very good football team in the Big Ten.
And you were winning in the fourth quarter.
Yep, and you blow that. I get it. It was weird weather conditions in the football field. Yada yada yada. Let's go all the way back to the first game. Everyone's favorite Myrtle Beach Bowl and Clay freaking Helton.
The Heltons
just coming out super flat, unbelievably disappointing for that team and for that roster. Another one here. Let's go to Auburn and Hugh Freeze. You mentioned it earlier with them losing. That was unbelievably ugly after scheming up so much against Alabama and throw another dud here against a team that you probably should have beaten. Super unfortunate. And I'll throw you one in a win here. Let's go LSU's defensive staff, which has just been canned effectively. Hopefully those guys find their jobs. I hate to add insult to injury there, but
to help your point, I'll say this. What did I always say about Tanner Mordecai?
He's good against group of 5 teams.
He's good against group of 5 teams. Good against group of 5 defenses, that is.
And they just played one in the secondary there.
And he was very, very good.
So, yeah, it was tough there. But obviously, I figured we should bring some teams down to earth because we've been propping up a lot of teams in this award section and a lot of players. Deservingly so. There's a lot of highlights that we loved to talk about. Let us know if we missed any, obviously. But I thought it'd be fun to add in a couple jabs there with some coaching staffs that, I mean, that's the thing with bowl seasons. Like, which coaching staff actually care? And Clay Helton did not. Right? Hugh Freeze did not. Mario Cristobal did not. And some others, too, as well. But we don't have
Mac Brown apparently doesn't. Just fired Gene Chizik.
Finally. Okay, at least he's kind of getting serious about it. At least he's finally
Yeah.
getting a little bit serious about it.
Of course, after the transfer portal window, just like all these sneaky sons of goat guns. You know what? I'm watching all of you coaches that fire your staffs. When you fire a staff member, an important staff member, the day after the transfer portal closes, I think you're an asshole. Here's why. You're not letting kids transfer when they need to. You're not giving them enough time. That sucks. That sucks. I'm looking at you, Brian Kelly. I'm looking at you, Brian Kelly. I'm looking at you, Mac Brown. That's a D-bag move if I've ever seen one. So that's just my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there's extra circumstances, like if your coaching staffs get fired, you can enter the transfer portal when it's not the window. I don't know if that works. Either way, I think you're a butthole. You get kids that just signed. Dominique McKinley just signed to LSU. That defensive staff
just flipped.
Well, yeah, he just flipped from a particular team. We're not gonna be upset about it. What I am upset about is poor Don McKinley. Now he's going into a staff that he has no idea what he's getting himself into, and he just signed his national letter of intent. So
yeah,
what are you gonna do? Actually, I don't know if he officially signed, but he flipped for sure. But yeah. Well, let's get out of these. Thank you for joining us for awards. If you're still this far into it, please consider liking and subscribing. We love you guys. We'll move on to the most important part of this entire thing. That's right. It is the national championship game.
Look at that trophy.
Oh, it's so big. All right, guys. This is it. Pause. This is it. This is our last preview of the entire year. So if you guys have liked our content up to this point, please consider liking the video and subscribing. So we appreciate it so much. We'll be here all off season talking about stuff, but it's still the postseason. It's not the off season. It's still postseason. We got it. The two teams of destiny, as CD had mentioned before. It is Michigan versus Washington. Washington catching 4.5 points. Washington just loves catching points, right? And they love it because it doesn't matter to them at all. JJ McCarthy versus Michael Penix, number 9 on 9. 9-on-9 crime. What? I'll let you start.
Here's the deal. This is a very hard game to break down in a sense of predictions because it's not a hard game to talk about because of the completely contrasting styles that's going to be happening with these two games. The problem is predicting when both of these teams have been super successful at their styles, who wins out, who prevails, how do you control that? And obviously it's going to be all about controlling pace and tempo of this game. If this game is moving into a shootout and it's going to be in the 30s, right? Obviously you favor Washington. If it's going to be in the teens and low 20s, like we saw in the Rose Bowl with Michigan, they can play their game and play their football, run the ball, and obviously take shots with McCarthy when they need to. It's going to favor Michigan for sure. I don't know. It's awesome. Both these teams obviously played super well in their games. Well, I don't know about super well, but they won their games.
Washington played, I thought, their best game all season.
But both of them had special teams blunders, right? Washington had the muff punt. Michigan had their own problems on the punting unit on both sides.
And extra points.
They got to find a guy in 7 days to be able to catch a punt, right? That's priority number one. I'm sure they have somebody that can do it. AJ Henning probably could have done it. He's over at Northwestern now.
See ya.
Sucks for them, but yeah, it's awesome though. Two quarterbacks here that a lot of hype, a lot of NFL hype. Obviously, JJ was a 5-star quarterback himself. Obviously, very talented arm runner, yada, yada. Michael Penix is everyone's man crush right now in college football, NFL draft circles. With the way he spins the football and throws it with timing, anticipation, and accuracy is really incredible. I get it. He's got those offensive weapons. I get it. He's got a good O-line. But he's also doing this off-platform with guys in his face, moving around, navigating the pocket, and throwing the tight windows. And yes, his receivers are making great plays and making them look good, but he is still doing such a good job. And the problem is here. Get my pick. Can I get my pick right now?
Yeah, you can give your pick.
I talked about it last game. Michigan, I know they're on the team of destiny. I know I love to ride them, and I think I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to ride the hot hand. I think what Michael Penix and Roma Dunze and crew there is doing offensively is just unstoppable. In college football, when you can go 3 wide and be able to pick your matchup and just exploit it on every down, it is such an advantage. This is the only team in the playoffs, maybe Texas excluded, but like the only team where I just feel so good, even if it's 3rd and 12, okay? Like I fully believe they're going to complete this pass for a first down, whether it happens or not, and more times than not, probably doesn't, but I just feel so good about them whenever it is. And to me, I think they can really blow this game out, blow it open, and be able to play their style of football because in 2023, now 2024, college football, right, like offense wins out. elite offense controls tempo and dictates the time and style of a game. And I think if Washington can do that and to play up to their standards like they did last game and against Oregon, right, they can do that. They can win this football game.
Yeah, and I don't hate that at all. I think here's what I also say too. I'll play a little devil's advocate right here. Michael Penix played what I thought was his best game all year. Those receivers played their best game all year. They also, as one of the most penalized teams in the country, only 5 penalties for 39 yards, which is good for them. Good for them. For a while,
Didn't Texas have a good amount of penalties as well?
Texas had like 10 plus penalties, right? Like you were to tell me who was a more penalized team before the game, I would have told you, oh, it's gotta be Washington. They're one of the most penalized teams in the country. And that's costed them at times. It's caused them to be in some close games. I really genuinely believe Washington played their best game that they have played all year, right? I know you talked about the muffed punt. Sure. I still believe that. I think Michigan did not play their best game all year, and they still beat Alabama. That's what I look at.
Yep.
And here's the other thing, too. Texas was running the ball very, very effectively. 7 yards a clip almost between their two running backs. And they only touched the ball 18 times combined. You're telling me that Michigan, okay, here it is. Texas runs the ball about 51% of the time, 51% of the plays, right? Michigan's willingness to run the ball at 59% per clip or 59% per game, that's like top 20 in the country. And there's teams out there that run the triple option and run option, spread option type offenses that run the ball more, right? Like they are committed to running the ball, and I think they will stick to it, right? Now, I think Washington's got some really nice pieces on the edge. I think Braylon Trice is a monster, right? I think Michigan does. I'll fade you. Now, here's what I'm rooting for, right? You're looking at a guy that's got Michigan plus 1025 to win the national championship, and you're also looking at a guy that hedged with Washington plus 4.5. So, what do you think I'm rooting for? You're probably thinking, oh, well, he's rooting for Washington to cover, Michigan to win, right? That is exactly what I'll be rooting for. All right. But here's what it is. I'll take Michigan minus 4.5, and I'll take Michigan to win. Michigan is the least penalized team in the country. Washington is one of the most penalized teams in the country. On the biggest stage, I think it's going to come down to details, right? And are they going to get the same exact big plays from those receivers that they got against Texas? Maybe. They might. Rome Odunze he just might be different, man. I think he is different. And he might get some of those, right? But just give Will Johnson a couple plays. Mike Sammer's still in the nickel, a couple plays on Jalen McMillan, right? I also think Michigan's linebackers are faster.
Yep.
Right? I think
and I think deeper in the front seven there. Like Texas, we talked about is being a year or two away from actually having a legit college football championship roster, right? And not only your first 22s, but your two deeps.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Washington, they just came down with so much. Can they replicate it? And look, if they do, then we will know for sure that Washington deserved to win the national championship. Undoubtedly. Because if you're just doing that time and time and time again, it's
Oregon,
like
Texas, Michigan. That would
Oregon's
be
play.
so impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're like, okay, like Washington, I think this whole time was the best team in the country because they had this elite quarterback that was just, I mean, darting. Like it was absurd. If you guys watching this video, I'm sure you guys watched the game. I mean, he was just absolutely pin missling guys. And what's hilarious is that like he was a transfer, and this is a 6-year guy. You know, it's like both these teams, like we mentioned earlier, too, are like in a situation where their roster gets severely depleted after the season. So it is win now or win not for maybe a couple of years for both of these teams. And what's funny too is that both these teams are in the Big Ten next year, so we might see a rematch sooner than later. So I am super super excited for this game. Things that I think will happen: Blake Corum having a monster game. Things I also think will happen: Rome Odunze will also have a very good game. All right, it's gonna really come down to like, can Michigan get home? Right, I think these edges are a little bit better than Texas's edges, not by a ton. I think they're a little bit better, a little bit more speed there. I think interior wise, maybe it's not as good, right? But the Dylan Johnson, if he's not 100%, like, can you rely on this run game? Like, they were not able to run the ball until they got Dylan Johnson going. And if he's not 100%, I don't know that they're going to be able to. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Michael Penix to do everything that he did last game. And there were a couple games this year where he did not do everything that he was asked. Look at Arizona State. right?
Flu game, but yes, yeah,
Blue game, but yes, but like he just. So I'm just asking all these Washington believers to be careful, right? Washington can totally do it. They're so capable of doing it. But I just think like if you were to simulate this game 100 times, I think Michigan covers the majority of them. So I will take Michigan to win and Michigan to cover.
Yeah, and here's the thing about this game that is contrary to last year's playoffs. Last year's playoffs, the semifinal games were awesome. They're super entertaining. Obviously, the Georgia Ohio State game, all time classic, coming on the end there at New Year's, right? It was at literally midnight there, Eastern time, and then they missed a field goal to win. Obviously, the Michigan TCU game was back and forth, crazy game at the end there as well. The thing is, nobody gave TCU a chance to win this football game, right? And that it was obviously a blowout. This is a very good game. Washington has an absolute chance to win this game, which is why I'm picking them to win it. You mentioned though, it's gonna be so hard for them to duplicate the success they had against Texas, against Oregon, but also like sometimes like when you're hot, man, like you're just unstoppable. We saw with Joe Burrow, right? When they would get cooking and they had 3 wide receivers that they loved, running backs out of the backfield, tight ends, yada yada yada. They were unstoppable. Right? Clemson had a damn good defense that year, and they just shredded them. Joe Burrow was unstoppable. Bama had a really good defense that year, and he just shredded them. Georgia was pretty damn good defensively there, and he just shredded them. And I'm not going to say this team is like the LSU team in 2019. Obviously, they can cement themselves as in a similar tier as them if they do win this football game, like I believe they will. But like when you have that hot of an offense right now and that hot of a quarterback who's as healthy as he's been since September, which when we saw him dotting guys up, right? He had that long break. We saw him using his legs in the running game, design runs, all that good stuff, moving pockets, right? Extending plays and taking hits there at the end there. Yeah, it's just so hard to stop it. And here's the deal with Michigan, like they jump on you, or if Washington jumps on Michigan, it's 14-0 or 10-0 and 13-0. Like how quickly does Michigan abandon the run? I don't know if they will. I don't think they will. I don't think Jim Harbaugh will get bullied into playing out of his style and out of his comfort zone. But also, like, it's a dangerous game to play there with Washington. You can get really, really frisky. And if Michael Penix and Odunze and them they come out hot, they don't have to run the ball if they're just dotting people up, right? Obviously, it hurts Dylan Johnson. We'll see if he plays. I'm not too excited about it. I think it's going to be Tybo Rogers and Penix to carry the load. They'll get Bernard his touches in weird gimmicky ways as well. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think Washington has a defense to hold up against Michigan? And obviously, secondary, I like them, right? Pass rush. When it's third and long, I love Washington in this spot here. But on first and second down, can they win enough? And that's obviously why you're probably picking Michigan.
Ooh, I don't think they do. I don't think you do. I don't think they do. I don't think they have the man meat up front. I mean, if Bama didn't have the man meat up front, I don't think Washington does. You know, if Ohio State didn't have the man meat up front, if Alabama didn't have the man meat up front,
Yeah.
if Penn State didn't have the man meat up front, then you can't tell me that you believe going into this game that Washington does. Right?
Yeah.
That's and Michigan ran the ball well when they needed to. You know, it's not like they ran the ball at like 6 yards a clip against Ohio State or Penn State, but they ran the ball. They only ran the ball in the second half against Penn State because they could. And then against Ohio State, they ran the ball okay. They ran the ball enough. And
Yeah.
it was effective. And they stuck to it. That's the key. Texas did not stick to it. Michigan stuck to the run in all of those games. In every single one of those games, those big games, they stuck to the run. That's credit to Sharon Moore and the staff there. The one alarming stat that I'll give, and look, a lot of this has to do with context as well. So it doesn't tell a full story, but let me paint a picture for you. First half points, okay, scored offensively. Washington, right? They're third in the country, averaging 23.8, almost 24 points every first half. That's absurd. Michigan in the first half averages 19.1, 14th in the country. That's really good. Washington in the second half, significant drop off, right? You're looking at only 13.9 points per game. It's good enough for top 50, right? Because, you know, you can only, I mean, no matter what kind of play calling you get, you're going to get some scoring plays with Michael Penix in this offense. But if you're telling me like coaching matchups here, right? You would think on paper like this is pretty even. Like Kalen DeBoer, a guy that doesn't lose, Ryan Grubb, who's a great offensive coordinator, and Jim Harbaugh on staff, who also has done a great job. That stat right there kind of tells me that, you know, Ryan Grubb, it takes a second for them to get going, you know, maybe some fourth quarter magic kind of stuff. Uh, it also tells me that they blew out a lot of teams too, right?
Early in the year for sure. But
Yeah,
they've been
but
playing.
so did Michigan, right?
Yeah.
That's the other side of that as well. So and Michigan They had almost no drop off, scoring 18.4 points per game, good enough for 18th in the country. So to me, that tells me that Michigan, they come out with a nice script and they do well, they stick with it. And then the second half, they come out with a nice script and then it works and they just stick with it, right? And against Bama, that wasn't necessarily the case, right? They had to come up with some big plays in the fourth quarter, but uh, I just think if Washington can't figure things out in that third quarter, that middle eight, if Michigan can find ways to win that middle eight, I think they win. And I'll give the slight coaching advantage to Michigan, which sounds crazy because I know Kalen DeBoer doesn't lose. Again, he doesn't lose. Like that's his whole thing. He's lost 2 games ever at Washington as a head coach. That's crazy, right? So just I'll give the slight coaching advantage to Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, no, I think this is going to be an all time. I think this is going to be a very fascinating game. I wouldn't say all time classic. I'll wait till the end there, to see how it actually plays out. But I think this can make a really really interesting game, especially in the first 30 minutes to see what happens. This is going to be a game. I know you got to get your picks out for Dawson's Diner, but it's going to be one where you kind of want to live bet. Right, Michigan comes out and they're really able to
Well, I won't
physically
be live.
impose their
I will
will.
not be live betting because I already have my hedge Washington plus 4.5, which is
Yes,
not Dustin. I'm not advising you take that. If you have a Michigan ticket, you might want to think about it. If you have a Michigan ticket as juicy as plus 1025, which, if you're following the show back in June, you might have gotten, but what are you going to do?
well, that's the thing, and the reason why you're hedging is because you actually believe that Washington has a chance to win a football game.
Correct.
Which is all the more credit to Kalen DeBoer and staff there. But yeah, because it can really, if Penix is coming out and lighting them up, like on that first drive or even that second drive, like, and Michigan is stalling offensively and McCarthy gets hit on third down or yada yada yada, and Michigan can't get to Washington, it's going to be really interesting. I do want to mention something real quick about Michigan's defense. They've just really really overhauled the way they have done things. And to be honest, what gives me a little bit concerned is, yes, we saw how well they matched up against Bama because Bama's strength is their run game and their O line and get Milrow moving and being able to have time to set up for deep plays. While Michigan's secondary is good, I think not elite. And I don't think I like Will Johnson. I like some other guys back there for sure, but the strength is that front seven for sure. But they also, this defense was built to beat Ohio State, right? The Ohio State teams with CJ Stroud, with
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison,
Yeah, it was.
with Emeka Ibuka, with JSN and Garrett Wilson, and all those guys you remember that are playing fantastically in the NFL. Like, right, it takes you back to the COVID year, right? With Jim Harbaugh there, goes to his brother John Harbaugh and says, "Hey, I need to overhaul my defensive staff. How do you guys stop elite NFL offenses?" And he's like, "Well, here's Jesse Minter or Mike McDonald," and he takes Mike McDonald, right? He plays fantastic. They beat Michigan. They beat Ohio State for 2 years. He goes back to the Ravens. They get Jesse Minter in here. They beat him again. And this defense and this scheme is just really diverse. It's really interesting. They come up with crazy blitz and stunts, and they really get after a quarterback and confuse a guy. The thing is Michael Penix has been around, and he has seen a lot of offenses or defenses. He's played against Michigan before, I believe, when he was at Indiana, although that was COVID year. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, but Michigan was like bad that year. They went like
And then he
2
was
and
hurt
4
the
or
year
something.
after. So whatever it is, like Michael Penix, he's also seen a lot of defenses, which I think it helps him more than it helped Jalen Monroe, who you saw could not get a good snap and could not read the defense or adjust or really do anything in that pocket that was always collapsing on him. That felt like it. But yeah, it's really interesting. That another thing that's like Michigan's also kind of prides himself on being able to beat a team that's constructed the way Washington's offense is. But also, I will say, like, take you back to the game, right? Michigan and Ohio State. That was a pretty darn good game. And I thought Kyle McCord played well enough to win that game. Marvin Harrison obviously dominated. Roma Dunze can do the same here to Michigan. But obviously, the difference there is that Trayvon Henderson, right? Like, he's a guy that Dylan Johnson could be, and to get him some tough yards, or at least try to establish a run when they needed to. And I thought Ohio State moved the ball well, better than anybody else did all year on Michigan, on the road there in Ann Arbor. So we'll see. We'll see here though. But I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Well, thank you guys for listening to our 2023-24 bowl season recap plus national championship preview. We appreciate you guys. If you like the content, like the video. I know we say that over and over again, but we really mean it. And please consider subscribing, clicking the notification button. We're coming out with stuff all the time. I know we haven't posted in like what 5 days, almost 6 days, but look, we have plenty of stuff coming out in the next 2 weeks. We already have 3 other videos that we have basically are about to be recorded the next couple of days that'll be posted over the next 2 weeks. Super excited for that. And thank you guys for joining us on this journey. We appreciate you guys a ton. CD?
Yeah, like you mentioned, like and subscribe the video. Thanks for your help. Hope you guys enjoyed the season. Enjoy the last game of the year, as it's tough. Obviously, we love the off season because it's so eventful. There's so much going on, but also like football is why we do it. And this is the last game we have until August. And until then, really enjoy this game and then get to it on the off season.
Absolutely. And we will see you guys in the next one.